Hello and welcome to a comparison video of the three main dreadnoughts used by the Rebel Alliance in Awakening of the Rebellion. This list includes the Dreadnaught Cruiser, the Twin Blade Frigate, and the Alliance Assault Frigate Mark I. This comparison video will include 11 total categories going over the strengths and weaknesses of each ship, with each category giving out a 3-point, a 2-point, and a 1-point ranking. In the end, we will add up all of the points and declare a winner, and keep in mind that this video is a personal opinion video, and that even though one of these ships will lose, it does not mean that that ship is unusable, and that even though one of these ships will win, it does not mean that that ship is overpowered. Our first category is the prices of each ship. The Dreadnaught Cruiser will get the first place finish because it is obviously the cheapest, coming out at 5,250 credits. The Twin Blade Frigate will get second place with 6,000 credits, and the AAF will get third place with 8,000 credits. The next category is the shields category. The slow charging balanced shields with only a strength of 3,000 will get the Dreadnaught Cruiser only 1 point, as it is 1,000 strength less than the other two ships. And even though these ships have the same amount of strength, I consider that the anti-turbo laser shields are going to be a little bit better for the AAF, as it is primarily going to be shot at by turbo lasers from ISDs, as those are its main combatants. So 3 points for the AAF and 2 points for the Twin Blade Frigate. Our next category is the armor, and you're going to want the heaviest armor being a Dreadnaught, as you're really there to tank a lot of damage. So the heavy armor, even though the strength is only 500 less than the AAF, I consider the heavy armor to be much more important than a 500 extra strength. The second place finish will go to the AAF, and last place obviously being light armor, with the worst strength will go to the Twin Blade Frigate. Our next category is the movement category. We have the speed, acceleration, and turn, with the Dreadnaught having low, and at 200, which is worse than the other two ships. It will only get 1 point. And the speed of 25 extra going to the Twin Blade, rather than the AAF, even though they have high and high, 25 extra is obviously going to be more important. So 3 points for the Twin Blade Frigate and 2 points for the AAF. Our next category is the anti-fighter capability of each ship. All three ships have 4 heavy laser cannons, and these two ships obviously only having those 4 laser cannons, both will get 2 points because there's no difference, and both of these ships need those heavy laser cannons equally. The Twin Blade Frigate will have an additional 4 dual heavy flak laser cannons, which are really good. They're some of the best, they probably are the best anti-fighter weapons in the entire game. 4 of them is really good. I almost wanted to give 3 points to the Twin Blade and only 1 point to the Dreadnaught and the AAF. However, I chose not to, but it's still a 4th place finish. The anti-ship weapons are the next category. Your heavier weapons going up against things like capital ships and stuff like that. The Dreadnaught has 2 light turbo lasers and 4 dual close-range light turbo lasers. The Twin Blade Frigate has 2 long-range heavy turbo lasers and 4 long-range medium turbo lasers. And the AAF has 8 dual close-range medium turbo lasers and 2 medium turbo lasers. That's going to get it first place. That, for a Dreadnaught, 8 dual close-range medium turbo lasers is a ton. 8 of them, they're dual, and close range obviously really helps out. The close range gives it faster fire rate and faster DPS. 3 points, obviously going to go to the AAF, just a ton of weapons. The second place finish will go to the long-range weaponry of the Twin Blade Frigate. For being a Tech 1 ship, 2 heavy long-range and 4 medium long-range is really good. It's nothing to be sad about. And only 1 point for the Dreadnaught, even though I actually think that the Dreadnaught's weapons are actually really strong. 4 dual close-range light turbo lasers are really good, but they definitely don't compete to the 8 medium close range, as well as the long-range weaponry of the Twin Blade. The abilities. I think that the abilities category is really what carries these 3 ships. All 3 of these ships really need their abilities. I don't think that power and engine's ability is all that important. It's really good for the Twin Blade as I have a strategy that I use with the power to engines ability, but without that strategy, I really don't think that the power to engines is all that important, other than to reposition it and to continue using the long-range weapons. So for repositionability, it's pretty good, but it definitely doesn't compete with the brace for impact and the power to main batteries. The brace for impact is going to get 2 points. It's really, really good. It's right up there against the power to main batteries. I think brace for impact is more important than the power to main batteries, as brace for impact really defines that Dreadnaught role. The Dreadnaught, you really just want to be in there tanking a ton of damage, as well as the brace for impact ability is really, really good in this game. However, I gave the 3 points to the power to main batteries simply because of how many main batteries this ship has. Like I said, those 8 dual close range medium turbo lasers is just a ton. Combine that with the power to main batteries ability, and you're really dishing out a lot of damage. So really close between those two. However, I gave the AAF 3 points and the Dreadnaught only 2. Our next category is the ranges of each ship. We have the sensor range, max weapon range, and the ideal weapon range. The Dreadnaught has the worst range out of the other 3 ships. Surprisingly, it's actually a pretty distinct difference between the AAF and the Dreadnaught Cruiser. I thought it would be a lot closer since they have very similar weapons. However, the AAF has slightly better ranges, probably because the medium turbo lasers are better ranged than the light turbo lasers, even though they're both close range weapons. And then the artillery ship of the Twin Blade is going to have the best ranges. Sadly, the sensor range of the Twin Blade Frigate isn't that good. I wish it was a little bit better. It's still going to get 3 points just because it's an artillery ship. Our next category is the pop cap of each ship. Surprisingly, the Twin Blade has 15 pop cap. That's really not very good. You really want your artillery ship to be as low of a pop cap as possible, just because it really doesn't always do that much damage. The survivability of an artillery ship is really, really good, but you really want to keep that pop cap as low as possible. Second place finish to the AAF, and only 12 pop cap for the Dreadnaught is really, really good. Not only is it better than the other 2 ships, but it's actually really good in general. You can really have a lot of them on the battlefield. The tech level category is also very self-explanatory. 3 points for the ability to use the Dreadnaught at any tech level. Really, really important because early on, Dreadnaughts are going to be your cheap, tanky units that are really good against enemy capital ships. The Twin Blade Frigate is really, really, really strong for Tech 1. It has a ton of those long-range weaponries, and is a really good artillery ship for Tech 1. So it's going to get 2 points in the worst tech level of Tech 2. Similar to the Twin Blade Frigate and how it has a lot of weapons for a Tech 1 ship, the AAF has a lot of weapons for a Tech 2 ship, however, it's still not really all that good. And the final category is the personal opinion category. I think that the Dreadnaught is defined by Dreadnought. It's really what you want out of a Dreadnaught. It has really high armor, heavy armor, it has the brace for impact ability, it has those close range weapons to where it can also dish out a lot of damage while being able to take a lot of damage. So it really does have that Dreadnaught role and embraces it very strongly. As well as it's really, really good early game. When you're in the early game and you're struggling for credits, especially as the Rebels, you really do want something that can take the place of capital ships, and it doesn't require any tech level. It has the brace for impact. It's really, really good early game when you're struggling for capital ships, and you need something that can take a lot of damage and is fairly cheap to where you can replace them even if they die. So that's going to get it 3 points. The second place finish is actually going to go to the Twin Blade Frigate. I think that this ship, being a Tech 1 ship, is really, really good. Like I said, it has a ton of heavy or long-range weapons for a Tech 1 ship. Now I'm going to talk about the 4 dual heavy flak laser cannons. Those weapons are extremely hard to come by. Keep in mind that these flak laser cannons debuff the defense of enemy fighters and corvettes by 35%. That's really, really rare. So what I recommend doing with the Twin Blade Frigate is accompanying that initial fighter skirmish. So you know how every battle your fighters kind of go off and engage each other before your main capital ships start having that combat? Include your Twin Blade Frigate in that initial skirmish. Bring the Twin Blade Frigate up with your fighters, use the heavy flak laser cannons to debuff the defenses of the enemy fighters, and that way your fighters have the really helpful 35% debuff, and your fighters will win. And then you use the Power to Engines ability to reposition it, and then use their long-range weapons. So a really good strategy right there to use those heavy flak laser cannons as well as the Power to Engines ability, and that I gave it 2 points. And the 1 point finish for the personal opinion category is going to go to the AAF. I'm really, I have Dreadnaught here because it's really is it a Dreadnaught? Because medium armor is really disappointing. This thing needs to have heavy armor. It's really the thorn in its side, if you will, that it doesn't have heavy armor. Because you're going to want these things to be so close range to take advantage of the close range medium turbo lasers, it's really going to be up close and personal with ISDs who have turbo lasers and heavy turbo lasers, so you really wish this thing had heavy armor. So it's really, when you think about a Dreadnaught, you're obviously thinking about how much damage it can take, and because it doesn't have heavy armor, it doesn't quite have that much. However, it does still really make up for it in major firepower, but I only gave it 1 point. So adding up all of the scores, we have a final score of the AAF at 22 points. The final score of the Twin Blade Frigate also comes at 22 points. And the Dreadnaught Cruiser will take the cake at 23. So the winner is the Dreadnaught Cruiser. Why? Simply because it's a Dreadnought. When you're talking about Dreadnoughts, you want something that can take damage, have a brace for impact ability, have heavy armor, and can also deal a little bit of damage. And that simply isn't something that the AAF can do. It can't take as much damage as the Dreadnaught can with its brace for impact ability. Overall, the Rebel Dreadnoughts are really solid. I must admit, for this comparison video, I was surprised that the Twin Blade Frigate could keep up, just because it's not your typical Dreadnought, obviously being an artillery ship. However, it did pretty solid in its own right, and overall, 3 really good Dreadnoughts for the Rebel Alliance.